Hello, hello. Welcome to the Make It While You Fake It podcast. A podcast about running a custom furniture and woodworking business while also trying to start a community makerspace outside of Philly. All without having any formal education in woodworking or in business. I'm Dan Skirma from Woe Shop Woodworking and MontCo Makers, and I'm glad that you're here with us. All right. I think it's working. That's pretty cool.
It's a miracle. Well, it's a miracle it worked on the first time.
Yeah, and we'll see if it actually worked on the first time.
Yeah.
All over. Well, welcome back to the Make It While You Fake It podcast, episode 24, which I'm honestly surprised I got 24 in a year. It's been a year since we started this. There's been a lot that's been going on since the last time we've done this. It has to have been at least 6 weeks since I did this. We were going strong for probably the first 3 or 4 months. We're doing it every week. Now we've dropped off because it's a lot.
Yeah, every week it's not only to find the time, but what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, right, yeah. I mean, every week over week was not a ton of progress and updates every single week, so it is what it is. But this is pretty cool. MontCo-Makers.com. We've been building that out, quickly. And we've been adding about a class of, per every couple days. And I've started email campaigning and sending stuff out, but we'll get into all that. First and foremost, I'm Dan Skirma, your host of this amazing professional podcast. And who are you, Mike Holmstrom? Who are you?
So Mike Holmstrom, I run Bodie Designs Woodworking part-time out of my garage in the Philly suburbs. I mainly do bowl turning and wood turning in general, but I also do a lot of kind of small woodworking stuff and sell at local craft shows. So,
yeah, you're busy during the craft show season.
Yeah,
are you doing it every weekend?
Yeah, it's from probably about the beginning of November until mid-December. We're every weekend, if not 2 shows a weekend.
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
Yeah, so we had 1 year, we had 4 shows in 9 days? And I was just like, I'm just done.
That's a lot.
Yeah, because it's that's not, you have a break. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm trying to have to redo and remake a whole bunch of stuff we just sold, so we don't show up to the craft show with empty tables.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I first got started, I feel like I did the just make a lot of cutting boards thing, and then I started doing farmers markets, and I quickly realized that they weren't even that expensive, but still, people didn't want to carry them around. People didn't want to buy them, and you get the comment of, "Wow, this is really nice. I wouldn't want to cut on it."
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, what? I shouldn't be here. Especially because there were 3 other woodworkers making the exact same stuff. So my stuff wasn't unique or in any way. So people were like, that's fine. Even when they were right before Christmas, people just weren't interested in it, which,
it's hit or miss. We were fortunate. We had 3 really good shows to end the year.
Nice.
Leading up to that was just horrific.
Yeah. Especially for some of the nicer shows that you're paying to have the booth.
Oh yeah.
You're like, I got to at least make my nut on this by selling. I don't know. Do you have to sell 5 bowls or something like that to break even or something? Well,
a lot of the bowls. So this is also about bowl turning and really wood turning in general. We're kind of the scavengers of woodworking. I've pulled over to the side of the road and literally just taken wood from the side of the road, or I've come and cleaned up scraps in your shop and made a bowl out of it. So I don't have a ton of money in stuff, but some bowls take 4 or 5 hours to make, and it's
right.
I have and I go to a show and sell 1, and it's my hourly rate really sucks right now.
Right. Yeah, when you start extrapolating it over fetching the log, rough cutting it, the time you spent drying it.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing. It's like, I paid that 1 bowl paid for 12 hours of my time.
Oh yeah. and then the crazy thing is I'll make wooden circles out of plywood
Right.
and put like a design on them, paint them, stain them, and sell them for $20.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll sell 20 a show easily.
That's so funny.
And then it's like, and I'm looking at the like, these are handmade wooden bowls. These are beautiful. And people are like, I want the same because it's funny. Okay.
Yeah. I want, give me that live, laugh, love sign in the back.
We do, these like, it's a piece of pine that I cut, router the edge, stain it, and throw some hardware and some vinyl on it. And it says like, and it said leash holder. It says live, love, bark.
Oh no.
And $15 and we sell out.
Oh my God. And people love it.
It's like, I've got, beautiful handmade bowls here, people.
Just like, nah.
They'll come back, like, oh, these bowls are really nice. And then they'll buy a $15 leash holder where it's still a sale, which is great.
Sure.
But I'm also like, so people are like, oh, I got to go to the hardwood center. I got to go to Home Depot to get 1/4-inch plywood.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, that's the thing, because when I first got started, it's like I was making end grain cutting boards for shows. And then I say, oh, these are all end grain cutting boards. So like, okay, I don't know what that means. I don't really care. It looks pretty. Okay, cool. So that quickly died out. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, honestly, I haven't made an end grain cutting board now in probably 6 years.
I've never made one.
It's just, they're cool. You could do some really cool designs and all that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, honestly, they're more artistic pieces. And in the end, if you need to sell one for $300 to $400, no one's going to buy it unless it's a strict commission where they really want something cool and whatever. That's kind of the unicorn.
And it's, craft shows is a tough market, but sometimes if you hit them right, you're good.
Yeah. So that would, now you're kind of, I'm brainstorming now as you're talking. I never really thought of this until now. So part of the things that I want to do with Makerspace, like weekends and stuff, I want to have weekends be really fun where people are kind of coming over. Right. So, one thing that, my wife was talking with me about before was having, one Saturday or one Sunday a month where it's like we have more or less a glorified daycare where you can bring your whole family, bring your kids, they can go play around, run around outside or something, with people watching them and whatever. And then you guys can go do a class while your kids, you don't need a babysitter, something like that. I was like, all right, well, that's kind of cool for families, whatever. Having food trucks on like a Saturday could be pretty cool. Now I'm thinking having like an annual little, a farmer's market or a maker fair type deal where everyone in the shop can bring whatever stuff they're making and have, a bunch of lead time and bring some stuff and maybe get people to buy things.
And I think it's a great idea. And you can also have it be classes or seminars in how to, make things for craft shows, how to sell at craft shows. So
yes. Yeah.
A bit of my backstory is semi back. So my wood shop name, Bodie Designs, is actually after my great grandfather. He was a skilled pattern maker.
Okay.
So he made wooden patterns that were then used in cast molding for
that's
turbines.
Cool. Oh, that's really cool.
So he passed stuff down to his son-in-law, my grandfather, and my grandmother. They did craft shows in the 90s.
Oh,
so
cool.
Tissue box holders, baskets, total 90s stuff. So I grew up in the craft show scene, and then my mom did it. So, and then everyone kind of took a break, and I said, hey, I want to get back into craft shows. This is fun because you meet some interesting people. You make
yes.
Fun. We've paid for vacations through craft shows.
That's cool.
There's an art to doing craft shows. And there's an art to selling, and there's an art to making things for sale. Like you said, with end grain cutting board.
Right.
I've seen woodworkers bring end grain cutting boards to craft shows. I don't know if one's ever sold.
They've never sold. I can guarantee it.
Yeah. I texted you about that. We were at one craft show, and there was a guy doing like mini river tables. He was selling it for like $600, a mini river coffee table. And I was like, it looks straight out of Pinterest, hairpin legs and all.
Right.
It's
Right.
not a
Right. Right.
clear pour. It's not going to look right. And people are like, okay. And I think that person rented like 3 spots.
Oh my
And
god.
it
Yeah, to
was,
display everything. And so
yeah,
that's the thing. So for in the beginning, I tried to just make anything I could to fill a
yep,
table. So it was garbage. It was coasters and cutting boards and signs and like the growth chart rulers that I literally drew on with Sharpie. Like
yeah,
it was anything to fill a booth because I had just gotten started. I don't think I was woodworking for more than a year before I started doing shows because I was like, why not? I don't care. I just liked
yeah,
going to them because it was fun. Um, but you get a real quick life lesson in like profit margin and what's your time worth and all this other kind of stuff. But in the end, I started doing some of the ones up in New Hope to go strictly to find people for commissions. I didn't go to sell anything.
yeah.
Um, and so I'm not sure if that enters into the turning world at all. Like, do people come up and be like, I would love a vase. I could see you turn stuff. Your stuff's gorgeous. Do you get any commissions at shows?
Not really. Like, I kind of have like what I have. And I started doing kind of a couple custom pieces like as display, like, hey, here's this piece I made. I can personalize it with names. And I did
Right.
the pet memorial jars,
Sure.
and I have it like basic engraving, and then I said, oh, I'm local, I'll engrave it, I'll drop it off, like
Sure. Sure.
everything.
Sure.
Even at dog rescue craft shows, nothing.
Right. 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 Right.
I do have I've had a couple people be like, hey, I saw something at your show, I want to buy it like 2 weeks later.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. That makes
But it's
sense.
not like, hey, I want a cherry bowl that's exactly 8 inches high. And no.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. 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 I've only had a couple, and then so this is like the progression of the farmers market scene. So the first thing is you try to just fill the table with anything just so that you don't look stupid,
Yep.
and then nothing sells. You're like, okay, fine. Now I'm going to try to pivot a little bit. I'm going to try to get commissions. So I'm going to make some nicer stuff. So I made some decent looking coffee tables, some live edge stuff. Again, I was starting out, so I didn't have a lot of the skill yet. So I built some stuff just to put in the booth. It looked really cool. I At one point I just brought slabs just to put behind me so that people could see the wood from the
Yeah.
distance and just kind of walk over. I was trying anything. So then I pivoted to try to get commissions, and then I got commissions, and then the commissions were I'd like a coffee table similar to that one, and I'm like, oh, and then you try to backtrack and be like, the price that was at the craft show is not what a commission piece costs, like, because you're asking me for a custom thing now. And they're like, oh, but I thought it was just like that $100 coffee table. I thought it was just gonna be like that. I was just like, damn it. So
Yeah.
I ended up doing a couple of commissions that were just like, I lost so much money even in just time and materials doing them. I was like, all right, so that's not the solution either. So I'm like, I don't think farmers markets are for me. I just stopped
No.
doing
If you, and I think the only woodworking part of that could do craft shows, farmers markets, is turning, because our pieces are smaller. They're, people say, oh, that bowl, I can imagine that onto my dining room table. Or,
it. Right.
I do the chip and dip sets. I do these turned chip and dip sets with the ramekin in the middle. And people are like, oh, this would be a great gift for my brother-in-law. He loves to entertain. And they see it and they buy it. It's really hard to get someone to talk to you for more than a minute at a craft show.
Right. Right.
Which
right,
is
right.
why I've perfected my 30-second pitch
Yes.
over 4 years of doing this, 3 years of doing
Right.
this.
Right.
And I've seen other woodworkers, and there's like people that say, oh, I'm a woodworker. I'm like, you took a piece of wood and you threw a laser engraver on it. I'm not trying to show shade at anybody.
Right.
But saying that's handmade.
Well, right, exactly. It's like the if I went with just all CNC signs, or I
Yes.
went with and that's the thing. So some of the guys that are, I mean, I guess it's still technically wood, but especially during the holidays, I've seen a lot of the guys that have just a either a Cricut and or Glowforge or whatever, and they burn out all the pieces of ornaments, and it's like kind of a kids thing, like come make your own ornament with the truck, and what are you putting in the back of the truck and putting it together, and that's your ornament. And they just laser engraved and cut out a whole bunch of 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch pieces, and that's like kind of a fun little interactive thing. And they were fine. I mean, that's the thing. If they're selling ornaments for $10 a piece and they end up selling, 80, they're doing fine for that farmer's market.
Oh no, yeah. That seems to be a big thing, especially that I've seen lately at craft shows, especially this past year, is a lot of people starting to do the 3D printing, the CNC, the Glowforge, whereas like I knew one or two a couple years ago. Now it's like everyone's like, oh, well, I saw this on Instagram or TikTok, and I can make, you see those YouTube videos where I could make $1,000 a month and all this stuff. And I'm just like,
I know. Yeah. You can't really. Yeah. Right.
But it's definitely, it's a skill, and it's something that, I've been successful and profitable at to the point of it doesn't pay my bills, but
sure. It's extra scratch. It's beer money.
Paid for a trip to Europe. So I'm not,
I mean, that's pretty good.
Not complaining.
That's pretty awesome.
Paid for a trip. We're going to Thailand, and paid for my trip to Thailand already. Like,
hell yeah, that's awesome.
But it's been a grind, and I think this past 2024 was probably the first year that we seriously made a good amount of money.
Gotcha.
For the craft show.
Gotcha. I wonder. I wonder. I wonder if people would take a class in just doing that. I mean, there are enough people that are starting out. I mean, rewind me 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have somebody just show me what to make for them if I was getting started, especially if there was like slightly challenging things for my skills at the time. It's then fun to make them. And learn how to batch stuff out and learn how to build, production runs of, 10 of whatever.
No, I think it's a class. Like you said, it's a class in itself, and it can almost be like, hey, we're doing a free seminar on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, here's the classes that you could take. And I could see someone walk in and be like, oh, I have to have, 100 pieces of inventory before I even show up at a show. I have to lay out X number of dollars of material. They're like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And they walk away.
Right.
That's fine. I would rather lose a little bit of money doing a free seminar than have someone else spend a ton of money and just waste it.
And just burn out. Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, go ahead.
Because and I started turning just for fun, and when I reached, I think it was 75 pieces, I realized, hey, I got to start selling this stuff, and it does take the fun out of it, selling it, because
it does.
I'm turning this piece, and I'm like, well, if I break it or something wrong, I'm out not only the money that I may have spent in this blank, I'm also out the potential profit that it's going to bring me, and I just wasted 3 hours.
Yeah, right, exactly. I love brainstorming this kind of stuff. I wonder if we had a maker's market of people that made stuff in the makerspace, and give them 6 months notice, but like, you know what, in the spring we're going to do this market. Here's the day. If you want a table, if you're a member, it's free. Just set up a table, whatever. Come on out, hang out. We'll have food trucks. We'll have stuff for kids to do. We'll have some barbecue stuff going, whatever. Just a fun little weekend to stop by in a mini maker market and just sell some stuff and just advertise the hell out of it and see if you can get some people some extra scratch. I think that'd be kind of cool. If no one shows up, we all just hang out and eat. Like, who cares?
And also, I think I did a show this past fall. Show wasn't that great, but it was it was for a dog rescue, and they said, this is the first one we're ever doing it. We're not taking any table money, but we're asking for a donation to the rescue.
That's fair. That's nice.
So if people outside the makerspace want to do these, say, hey, we're not charging for table, but if you want to donate a little bit to the makerspace, or check out some of check out the makers booths, maybe,
Right.
support them, because,
That'd be cool.
I've done shows where the host or whatever they are, they just take your money and that's it.
And some of them are not cheap. So some of them are,
No.
but some of them are not cheap. Are you paying like $300-400 for a booth somewhere? Is it
No,
that
so
high somewhere?
the most we've done is 100.
Okay, that's better. I thought it got out of hand.
No,
Okay,
it has gotten out of.
not
There's a couple down, especially down towards like the beach towns, that are like 250, rain or shine.
no.
I think
to be one of like 4 people with bowls. You're like, no.
Luckily, I've only had one show where someone else was doing bowls, and somehow they got put like right across from us, and he was like 4 times my price. He didn't
Nice.
sell anything. I sold a bunch of stupid signs.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah, no,
I
like
mean,
they could get out of hand, and some of them, they're like, they have such strict rules. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, our tablecloths have to be a certain color and down to the ground. And there was one I looked at, and it was like a handmade artisan. I was like, okay, that seems good. It was in a kind of a pricey area. I'm like, this is good. And they're like, well, do you make the metal piece in your bottle stoppers? No, I contract that. I buy it. And they go, oh, well, everything has to be handmade. I was like, a metal piece of, no, I'm not dealing with you. No.
Oh man.
But I was like, yeah. But
it's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah, we normally cap at 100.
Yeah, that's
for a table fee.
Okay. And what is a average bowl run? I mean, that's probably hard to say because they're all over the place in size and everything. But
so I would say an average one is probably about 100, about 75 to 100. I've got
okay.
Normally, I bring anything that's 50 and above to shows.
That makes sense
because I'm not wasting space.
Yes,
and I have a few that are the 150, 175 range.
Sure. Okay. So that's nice. I mean, in all honesty, if you go to a show and you spend 3 hours of your life, well, call it 5 hours, an hour setting up and getting stuff, an hour breaking down and getting home, 5 hours of your life, and say, it's $100 for the show. I don't know. If you sell 5 bowls, you're almost breaking even, sort of, I guess. You know,
it's and that really, it depends, a lot on the time. There's certain shows that I actually like enjoy doing the shows sometimes.
Yeah.
Dog rescues are always fun because
there's puppies everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's, it's other times I would just be sitting on the couch at home. But I say, if profit wise, if I walk away 250, 300 in profit, it's a good show.
Nice.
If I'm 5, it's a great show. If I'm north of 5, I had a, you had
a killing.
That's a day.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I think this would actually be a pretty sweet idea. But being that you turn all this kind of stuff, you're definitely going to be teaching some turning classes at the Makerspace. I started listing some. I think it would be really fun. What's funny is that another friend, my friend Nick Valenza, he's going to be teaching some turning classes too. I have the most instructors that are turning. I have like 4 or 5 people that want to do some turning classes, which is pretty awesome. But he signed up. You're actually going to be teaching him. He's going to be teaching classes, but him and his wife signed up for a class. I think mostly to be nice.
They I think they want to do like the beginner bowl class or something.
I know. Yeah. I was like, you do offset ornaments, like you just you do some complicated stuff.
I've sat through some of Nick's. I've been in Nick's demos and some of his classes, and I'm just like, and I'm a very mathematical person.
Sure.
I'm really good at math, and like we've talked math concepts before. I guarantee you, and Nick's a great guy. Him and his wife are awesome. I guarantee you the class is going to be glazed eyes when he starts going over the mathematics of offset turning. No, they will be.
Well, so that's a fun part, because I think that similar to like, H Valley Tools or whatever, we are going to have a lot of demos when we first start, just to get people in the door, just so that they could see what we're building out and everything. And I think like an offset thing like that might be a little too complicated or too long. I don't know how long it takes them to do one of those. I imagine it's not super fast. But something like that is like, do the demo, kind of get people excited about it, and then post the class right after that. Anyone that attended it in person, here's a coupon code because you were here in person. We know you are taking the class because you were physically here and you came in to like see the thing. It's just good feedback for me, just as a business owner, just like what is working. So that would be really, really cool to see. But we started listing some of the classes. I'm curious to see, because like turning it on the surface, you're like, well, how many round things could you make? But there are just so many different aspects to it. The segmented bowl turning. I thought it was literally just, all right, you're just building up a blank. It's like, no, you're not. There's a lot. There's a lot of math to it.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of math, and it's one of those things that it's like, if you get it right, it's amazing. If you're one little thing off, it's completely blown.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why, like, I was thinking, like, oh, I could teach a segmented class, but I don't know if I want to do it, because there's a lot of, and no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for those segmented bowls, do you put like alignment dowels or dominoes or something in the middle that you're carving out to like keep the pattern? Like,
nope.
I can't wait to take the course, because I have no idea about it. It looks cool on YouTube. I've just never seen it done in person.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you have to think like 5-6 steps ahead of where you are.
That's cool.
And that's one of like the big lessons, that one's taught me, like, okay, but if I move this ring, how it's going to look with the other rings, and I line these up, and it's definitely one of those, you really kind of have to take your time, and it takes so long to make the actual blank, but turn it is like, 20% of a normal bowl turning, because it's mostly hollow anyway.
Right. Well, and that's my question. So for something like that, for like a segmented bowl turning class, that's certainly not a beginner class.
No.
I don't even know if that's an intermediate class. I feel like that's an advanced class that's like 2 8-hour Saturdays or something. Or is it more than that?
That one would be interesting, because you can do a lot of the segment cutting on the CNC.
Oh, interesting.
I know a lot of segmented turners that do all their segment cutting on CNC, and they are precise.
Really?
So you could, have it kind of combined with a CNC class.
So that's
one day would be like, we're going to learn CNC and how to cut the segments of the bowls. And that's another area where I think the makerspace is going to be great, is that it's going to give people access to tools that they normally couldn't get access to.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, so that's the thing. Like I've started thinking, so I haven't gotten this far in the classes list yet, because right now we still don't have the location. We're still talking to the bank. We'll talk about that later. It's going very well. So I still think that June is actually a very, very likely opening date, which is awesome. Maybe even May, but that might be pushing it. But I'd like to get to the point where I have courses that you buy the entire course. It's not just one class. It's a series, and it could be 5 different classes. And this is one of those cool scenarios where it's not just, it's the same old tools. You just might be using them a little differently. This is very different stuff, like a CNC to a lathe to like how are you finishing it? To milling the lumber, all that kind of stuff. It's like it's a whole board.
Oh yeah, because you're going to literally go from milling to planing and to planing.
Yep.
Jointing and planing. Then you're going to CNC it. You're going to assemble it, and then you're going to drum sand the rings to get them perfectly flat and parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to glue them up, and then you'll maybe spend 20 minutes on the lathe turning it.
Right. All that preparation. Right.
But it's going to give people like, I think this is a big market is people that have small shops either in their garage or their basement that either can't afford or can't fit a CNC, a planer, a drum sander. Where it says, I'm like, I'm not going to go out and buy all those tools if I can buy a monthly membership to a makerspace and be like,
no.
I literally show up with, 50 segmented rings that are for 10 different bowls. And I literally just stand at the drum sander for 2 hours one night at the makerspace. My membership's already paid for itself.
Absolutely. I mean, even, so it's funny. Eric Curtis just did a video recently where just like everybody else, everyone starts getting on YouTubers about their expensive tools. Everyone does it. I knew you back when. Who the hell is this guy with the Shaper Origin and the Festool everything and the blah blah blah? So people get all bent out of shape, and that's fine. Like whatever, teach your own. I still learn from all those videos because it's an approach thing and a mindset thing, and whatever. It's just another tool. It just happens to be expensive. But like he did a whole video of like, all right, if I were getting into woodworking today, and he went over an old project, he's like, here are the tools that I would need. And he at some point you have to draw the line. I'm not going to include sandpaper and that kind of shit.
Yeah,
but he's just like,
I know the video you were talking about, and I thought it was actually a great video because
it's great because he was looking at like, if I bought a Ryobi table saw, that's what I'm working with here. If I bought the cheap and not even cheap, just like if I put the inexpensive hobbyist DIY homeowner type tool instead of the Festool and the saw stop and all that kind of stuff. And he was still, I forget what the final number was. It was over $2,000.
Yeah, it was like $2 or $3,000.
It was $2 or $3,000 for like the basic set of stuff. I was like, at $160 a month for a membership, you're at the makerspace for years. Before you build that stuff up, and the power requirements and all this and the space and all this other stuff that goes along with it. It's not just money. It just if one was closer to me, I wouldn't have built my basement out because I could barely move in there once I had my shop set up.
Yeah, and when the makerspace opens, I'm going to have a serious consideration. Be like, hey, I don't need like half the tools in my shop. Right. Where it's like, my planer broke. I broke my planer. Yeah. I'm not buying a new one. As a turner, I use a planer a few times a year if I'm doing stacked bowls.
Sure. And, right.
So I'm just going to wait for the makerspace or, because for I'm still on a DeWalt contractor table saw.
Sure.
8 1/4 inch, the one that can't even have a dado blade on it.
Yes, I almost bought it today.
Yeah,
ironically, I almost bought the battery powered one today because I might start doing like mobile demos at scout troops and stuff like that. But I know the saw. It's just
because it's like you think about it. Yeah, I could buy a $3,000 saw stop, but am I going to get that $3,000 back?
No, not really. Yeah, no.
Whereas I'm I have one of the huge Rikon bandsaw, the 14-inch resaw one.
Yeah, nice,
phenomenal bandsaw. I spent $1,500 on it, but I've cut hundreds of bowl blanks on it and saved myself a ton of time.
Absolutely,
that's where I think a lot of people are going to see the value of the makerspace. Is that hey, I may have this little workbench down in my basement. I've got a drill, a circular saw, stuff like this. I'm going to go to the makerspace and do all the heavy lifting, and then I'm going to take my project back and I'll glue it up in my basement.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing, because it's still, especially so this is one of the parts of the business plan. So I have my business plan done, and then I've been talking to the SBA directly and the bank and everything. And the SBA said pretty much like, where'd you get this template? I was like, well, I got it from TD Bank because they're my bank and they gave me the template. And then I decided I wanted to go with a smaller local bank. But I kept their template. I made the business plan from that. She's like, this is trash. This doesn't flow. It's repetitive. It jumps all over the place. This template is horrible. Here's the template to use, the one from the SBA. It reads like a story. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I'm doing it. Here's why it's going to work. Here's how much it costs. And here's the market. Like it flows. So the recent, so I've just been transposing all my stuff from the old plan to the new plan, and then there are a couple sections I'm just writing fresh with fresh eyes, and I just was at the point where I was defining my market, and there are really three types of customers, members, really, that I have, and this is where she helped me out, the lady from the SBA.
And FYI, anyone, SBA's Small Business Advisor.
Administration.
Sorry.
And actually, this lady, she works for the SBA, but her direct company is the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. I think it's run out of Temple University or whatever. Either way, she gets paid to make sure that the SBA is going to approve my loan. So
okay.
So it's not a volunteer thing.
Help.
Like that's her job. So she looked at it. She goes, I know why you were sent to me. I was like, okay, got it. So she cleaned all this stuff up. We talked through a lot of things, whatever. But on the, she's like, you do have an audience. Because she's like, what is your audience? It's like, saying anyone that likes woodworking is not an audience. That's not a definition. She's like, you have three. She's like, you have novice woodworkers, you have experienced woodworkers, and you have kids. Those are like your three things. I was like, thank you. That actually helps a lot.
Yeah, you have
that does
the
put
novice,
it into words.
The novice that hasn't even picked up a hammer in their life. Yep. And they're going to need the instruction, and they're going to need safety, guidance, basic tools. And most times they're probably not going to be using a lot of power tools, but they're going to be taking up a lot of space.
Yes, they are.
Whereas you have the intermediate, which, you correct me if I'm wrong, but they're defined as, they may bid on IKEA table, they've put together furniture, they may put a bench out back with their kids and all that.
They took a high school shop class, and they did some scout stuff and whatever.
Or they've seen a bunch of YouTube videos, and you know, they're the ones that are going to be probably taking up a lot of, they're going to be more using the power tools.
Well, and they're going to be filling up the classes as well. Yes. They're going to be filling up a lot of the group classes.
And the goal really is for the classes to grow with the audience.
Yes, exactly.
We're not going to, you're not going to start out with, here we go, first class, Windsor chair.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're going to start with like, here's how to make a jewelry box.
Exactly. And it's great because we have our list. I have my Excel spreadsheet of things that are demos only. Things like making Kumiko panels or whatever. After really thinking about it, do I think someone's going to pay for a class to cut 10,000 tiny little pieces and then glue them up? Probably not. It's so repetitive and kind of boring, honestly. It looks really cool in the end, but I don't think someone would pay for a class for that. But having a demo on, here are all the Kumiko jigs we use and the tools that we use, and here's what you could do if you were a member here and you wanted to spend the time to do that. This is what you can do. So I have like demo classes, beginner, intermediate, advanced, immersive classes, which are a full 5 days long or more, and then kids classes. So I have those categories pretty much that I've defined.
What about like a guest instructor? Like I could see the Kumiko class. If I don't know anything about Kumiko. Sure. I've seen it done.
Same.
Yeah. But if you had like the, world-renowned expert in Kumiko come and teach a class, that's something where you could fill that class.
So that's the thing.
People would travel.
Well, so I have boxed in the traveling guest instructor. I've boxed that into immersive classes right now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just because I feel like because that's the thing, just from a business perspective, I would pay them the cost of the class for one of the students would be what they just get out of pocket. And then travel, room, board, food, all that other kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So like you're spending a lot of money for them to come here. I would want to make it worth it with an immersive class that is, a commitment for people to take. And a lot of those immersive classes can't have that many people in them either. So for some of the immersive classes that we have a Windsor chair class. My buddy Mike wants to teach it. It'd be great. I have no idea. Yes, of course it's Mike.
Not me, by the way.
Yeah, not you, Mike. That's the thing. I would love to take the class. I've been wanting to go to Greg Pennington's school down in Nashville forever to
Oh
take
yeah.
that course. I'm probably going to do that this year. But like that's a 5-day, 8 to 10 hours a day. That's all you're doing. How many
Oh
people
yeah.
can you actually have in that class? 6? Maybe
Yeah.
6? Like, and that's it. Like, you can't have any more than that. We want to have an immersive class where you're building a workbench.
And
You
so
know,
I saw one online. It's out of the UK, and it's a 3-day immersive class where you build your own hand tool workbench
cool.
using hand tools, and then you take the bench home to keep learning and working on it. And
Nice.
I'm like, that's all. Like that's something, you know, that's more of what I would be interested in taking, but it's those 3 or 4 days, and I'm like, and you think about it, for adults, that's vacation time from work.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I need to make those classes really worthwhile.
Yeah.
That's where like, if we're and I don't know how often I'm going to do immersive classes. It'd be great to do them once a month. I think it's too much. I think it would probably, especially when we start out. I think when we start out, a lot of it's going to be, sign up for this class and then we'll pick a date later. I need it full first. Or if we don't have enough people, we're going to postpone it or something like that. I just don't want to waste people's time. But like those are my list of classes for turning stuff. I feel like there's going to be some sort of turning class almost every night. With the amount of instructors that have reached out that want to teach, and with the amount of things that you could do, I think it would be a really cool thing because that's on its own separate thing. So its own separate room. So the way I have it laid out is like I think it was you and a couple other people. All the turners, by the way, gave the same advice. They're like, if you're gonna have 6 lathes for students and people to learn on, get 7 of them so that the teacher is using the exact same one as the other people.
Yes.
You all gave that same advice, which I thought I should buy like a really nice membership lathe for this instructor, but it's not relatable then if yours is just
it's
better.
No, it makes perfect sense.
So I would have the 7 lathes, essentially a U-shaped setup. All the lathes are around the instructor so that the instructor could turn and see everybody. We'd have a little half wall in the corner where we would have one of the really nice like Laguna lathes or something like that. That's for members, and members can come in and turn when class is going on. That's fine. It's not all that loud. So we'd have that available to members too, because I don't want the members lathe in the main shop dust collection and just a mess.
Yeah,
no, whatever.
I, as someone who had 20 inches of sawdust.
Oh yeah, I saw that picture.
20 inches of wood shavings. It ended up being 270 gallons. I have a rolling trash can, 25-gallon trash can.
6 times.
I filled it 6 times. And that was rough turning.
Oh my God.
14 bowls.
Dude, that's so much. Like, I'm thinking of that in terms of like planer shavings, and that is a ton. That is a ton.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Nice. That's really cool.
No, it's great, but turning, we are a mess.
Yeah. You guys are pretty sloppy.
But I think that, like you said, it's almost between demos, classes, and I think you're probably going to have one night a week where there's going to be a instructor, quote unquote, there.
Right.
But it's more of like an open door advisory role.
Well, so actually that's an interesting. So yeah, I haven't really thought of that. So I've always had I in my head there's always an instructor floating around in the main member shop.
Yeah.
I didn't really think that there would be someone hanging around the lathe studio because there would always be a class going on. So someone could always take, if someone had a question, like an instructor could probably spare like 2 minutes while people are off doing their thing. But yeah, no, it's interesting.
And it would probably be like, a Monday or a Tuesday night, like
an
off night where it's like, and myself and the other instructors, we would kind of just rotate. Take on a 5-week basis. Hey, I'm going to be at the makerspace tonight from 4 to I don't know what time you're playing, like 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or something like that. I'm just going to be there.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'll be working on my own stuff. But
that's the thing. Yeah.
If you got a question, ask away.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. Like, if you're an instructor here, you just come use the shop. I mean, that's part of the perk of being an instructor. You come use the shop when you want to, honestly. And then what's nice is that you're also going to be prepping stock for like a class next week. You're going to be roughing out some stuff and doing that kind of stuff anyway. So that would be really cool. I just pulled up my class list. And this is by no means all encompassing. It's really just kind of this was stream of consciousness, write down classes just to start getting them on the site and get them scheduled. So like a wine bottle holder as a demo, simple.
Yeah,
probably wouldn't be too difficult for people to do. The beginner courses, I'm trying to sift through like turning specific ones because I don't have, and that's the thing, I don't have many because I don't know how many different things you would want to teach, you know?
For beginner, a bottle opener is a great one to do. And that's something that could be done in an hour.
Gotcha. That's cool.
And I'm also thinking like that's something that you can do since it's so short and stuff like this, you could almost do it as like a couples thing. Or like
right. So that's good because every other Friday night, the way that I'm scheduling it out, every other Friday night is essentially a date night class. Exactly. Wood in the beginning, wood at the end. It's a great night for everyone. It's
safety first.
It's not a children's channel. So every other night is a date night class, and then the ones in between those are really like demo Fridays where we have happy hours and people just come hang out and whatever. So that would be really cool. I have like obviously the pen turning one where you probably turn 1 or 2 pens in a given class. I think I have it for like set for 3 hours or 4 hours or 3 hours. That's really. It's a long time.
But you think about it, taking someone that's never seen a lathe or maybe seen one on like Instagram,
right?
There's going to be a lot of safety going up in front.
Well, so at Maker Camp, I turned my first pen. I saw it. So I did take at Philly Woodworks. I did take their intro to bowl turning 12 years ago.
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't. So I took the intro to bowl turning, so I understand the basic concept of a gouge and doing that. I was like, all right, that's good. How hard can a pen be? But they had us all set up, which So I'm not sure how far I want to go. If I want to go with like putting the pieces in the blanks first and doing all that, or they just are only turning, and that's where I like struggle because. If you're in the turning lab, like you're in there doing that. I don't want to take up another room because you're like cutting stuff off and bandsaw and milling stuff down, you know?
I think from the pen turning, I think, you're going to kind of start with basically here's rough cut. I think every class except the milling class, if we ever do anything like that, or a class on rough lumber, you're going to start with rough size. S2S, S3S.
Right.
So I would start with, hey, here's a pen and here's pieces for the pen that are rough in size. I'm going to show you how to take rough in size down to a pen. If you want to learn about how to get these pieces down to a rough size, take intro to lumber or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
Where it's like, it's not a prerequisite, but if you want to learn how to do that,
sure.
Here's how you do it. Or if you go to H Valley and you buy a blank off of there, that's pretty much where I'm going to start.
Yes, exactly.
If you bought a blank from H Valley or, a Craft Supplies or something like that for the pens, for the bottle openers, the bottle stoppers, basically I'm going to start with something that you can buy.
Yes, exactly. That's where Maker Camp started. They already had the 2 sides. They had the insert in there already. It was literally just we're chucking it up with the pen turning jig, and this is literally how much I know about. I don't know the name of freaking anything. They already had the pen turning apparatus on the lathe and you slide it on there and you just start turning. So it was
Yeah.
literally just turning and that's it. And then you use the pen jig to press it in there and then you're done. So like
I would probably
that
start a step
took like
earlier.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Like, and I would say like, okay, here's how you chuck in the blank. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to drill the hole where the tube's going to go in.
see, I think that that's important because someone can't then do that class and then go home
Exactly.
and do it. I want them to be able to do it. And that's the thing. As much as I want to like sneak my way into, you should probably have a membership if you want to do all this kind of stuff. People still have little shops at home and they have they have their stuff. And I don't want to, I don't want to force somebody to be like, hey, I gave you 80% of the information, but that last 20% is kind of a secret. We're not going to tell you. I don't want to do that. That's stupid.
No, and I think part of it is also going to be that, with the membership's not just going to get you in the door. Right. There's going to be discounts on the classes.
Yes.
There's going to be a retail space.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot more to the membership rather than it's not like a gym membership, like a Planet Fitness. I pay my $20 a month. I get through the door and that's it.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of value there. Whereas, and you could start out as, hey, I took a pen class. Oh, this is really nice. Now I'm going to take Mike's beginner bowl turning, where I'm going to walk you through how to tart from a rough piece of dried lumber to a finished bowl.
Yep.
That it's a common size bowl that I sell all the time. It's, it's a 3-inch by high by 10-inch wide bowl. Beautiful universal piece. I'm going to show you how to do that. They take that. Okay, now I want to get a lathe and I want to start doing this.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about it is, we can help you buy the lathe from H-Rally with the tools and all that. And then also with the membership, you get access to ask the instructors questions and help and get us advice, or you can book time with an instructor.
Yep. Did you forget a step? Is it really like it? Are you scared to drill the hole because that's just not something you're comfortable doing on the drill press or the lathe itself or whatever? It's fine. We have someone here to help you out. And that's the thing. So right off the bat, members pretty much have 10% off across the board. They have 10% off all classes. They have 10% off private instruction. They have 10% off retail. They have 10% off lumber. They have 10% off of everything. Which is just nice. That'll pay for itself quickly.
That's huge. And it's literally going to be, and you're going to get 10%. You're going to get the classes, and then you're also going to get access to experience and knowledge. And there's going to be a lot of times where, hey, I have a question. It's not worth me buying a whole private half hour.
Sure. And that's the thing.
I'm getting chatter when I'm turning this bowl. What do you think? Oh, okay, well, do this, and then try that, and then let me know.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas,
and that's the thing and that's where you kind of, the instructors are going to know. Yeah. You're going to be able to feel it out on where the line is. Be like, this sounds like this is a longer discussion. Like, we have to get into some theory stuff here. We have to get into some 101 stuff, and then we can kind of get back to this. You book an hour, and like, you're light years ahead of where you were an hour ago. I mean, it's worth it.
So I would say, as they say, in a past life, I studied martial arts for 15 years.
Nice.
The blurred belts and all that in the background.
Nice.
And towards the end of my 15, I was the program director of the school. I was responsible for scheduling all the classes, what the curriculum was going to be, who's going to be teaching what and when. And we had private instruction. And a half-hour private instruction was worth weeks of classes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the great thing about the private instruction is that you can pick one specific thing you want to work on.
Yep.
And then you could just focus on that instead of coming to a whole multitude of classes to spend a little bit of time on that during the time.
Yeah, it's the depth versus the breadth stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be the same with the makerspace. And also, if you're a member, this is just spitballing. I don't know if you have this. You can, if you have enough people, you can get a private class that,
I haven't thought about that. That'd
like
be
I
pretty
think
cool.
it'll be cool with the turning. I think one thing is like, hey, I've had people reach out to me, hey, we had this tree taken down. We want to
Sure.
do something with it. So, hey, bring the lumber.
Yeah.
Bring your whole family. I'll teach you all how to make bowls out of that tree that's been in your backyard.
See, that'd be awesome. I love that.
And as a member,
Yeah.
you can schedule that and you can get input on what classes are made versus just a non-member that says, here's the class schedule.
Yes.
You're kind of a little bit at
absolutely
groups.
So that's one of the things that I spoke about with the SBA lady 2 nights ago, which was she's like, here are the tools you want when you open. You have some of them, you're going to buy some of them with the loan. Fine. She's like, I would almost, because part of the things that I was struggling with was, previous advisors that I had were like, you need to think about when you're purchasing the next big tool 6 months from now, put that in your plan, all this kind of stuff. But some of that stuff is a little bit too fluid and dynamic where I don't know if I'm going to want that or not. And a lot of it is going to be based on what members want and what they're going to use. Like a perfect example is, and the example that I've used is a spray booth. I'm not going to open with a spray booth. It's not my minimum viable product. That's not part of my thing that I need to succeed. Without one, you're limited to rub-on finishes for everything, which could be fine for a lot of people. But if you're in that, I'm already building commission furniture and I use catalyzed lacquer for everything, but I'm in my basement, I'd love to just join and then do everything there. It's like, you can't spray here yet.
Yeah.
That's something, because the spray booth costs $75,000 to put in.
Yeah.
For an 8x8 room. So
and that's
like a barely a table. Like you can't really comfortably fit a table in there.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't spray my dining room table in there.
That's what I mean. And on the surface, you're like, all right, 75,000. If we make the numbers work, great. No, it's a whole process of filter media and scheduling recycling of it and getting a whole service to come remove it and all the other stuff and fitting it in and being near an outside wall so it can vent outside. Like there's a whole slew of stuff. But that's one of those things where if enough members came forward and said, it would be a huge value add to me if you had a spray booth, and I could also draw 10 local contractors who paint cabinets, who want to use it to paint cabinets, who don't really want to be members, but they want to pay an hourly rate to use a spray booth. Okay, if the business case is there and everyone wants it and it's going to pay for itself in a reasonable amount of time, then I'll put one in. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's got to make sense. And that's like an extreme example just because of how expensive it is. But for anything, for a wide belt sander, for whatever, if no one's going to use it, I'm not going to buy it. I really want to get, personally, I would love to get an old like Oliver stand-up mortising machine. I think it would be really awesome to have a real industrial size mortising machine. But if no one's doing mortise and tenon and people are all using dominoes that's what I mean. If people are using dominoes for the first 6 months and no one would use it, then why would I buy it?
Yeah. And I think that's really what's, it's going to drive it. And, I think for the turning aspect, once you kind of set up the turning studio you were talking about, there's not really much, maybe adding a couple extra lathes, like maybe taking the class to like 8. 8's kind of the max I would be comfortable.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of wood shaving. That's a lot of chaos.
Well, and what's nice about, so the reason I've been putting up classes is 2 reasons. First is one of the hurdles the bank said that I was going to have was proving demand. They're like, how do you know? Not your gut feeling, not you think that people will like this. How do you know that this is going to be successful? Because we're giving you a lot of money and we're expecting you to pay us back. The only way you're paying us back is if you're successful. So we need to know you're going to be successful. So that's kind of the whole back and forth. And so part of putting up the classes and putting these class reservation gift cards for $10 that a ton of people bought, which was awesome, is that it got people to open up wallets and give $10. That was enough. That's enough of an incentive to show the bank, like, people want this because they're paying and scheduling classes for a place that's not open yet, doesn't have a location, and is very much subject to change based on when I open. And they're still booking classes. Imagine now when I'm established and these dates are in, in concrete, and like it's gonna happen.
I think you've hit on a gold mine, because if you look at all of the places that are closing, it's all retail things. People,
it is,
because people can buy everything online, or people have so much stuff as it is. People want experiences, but a lot of these experiences are capped. Like, I was picking up dinner and I drove by a trampoline park. It was in the same shopping center I was picking up dinner. We took my niece and nephews there right when it opened. It was mobbed. And I'm thinking, it's a Wednesday in January. It's 5:30. I'm thinking this place is going to be crowded. It's cold. Kids are going to get cooped up inside. It was dead empty, because
they've done it.
They've done it. I know your kids have probably done it 1,000 times. Been to how many birthday parties?
So many at the same place.
With a twist. All of these like experience things that last 2 to 3 years, and then everyone's done them. People have stacks of painting with a twist painting in their basement or in their attic. The difference with the makerspace is it's going to grow and evolve with the community. Whereas there's going to be a lot of beginner classes to start out with.
Sure.
It's mostly going to be beginner classes, but as the community gets more experienced, it's going to start opening up.
And absolutely, I'm going to meet instructors who are just members, who are like, what did you just make? That is a gorgeous liquor cabinet. Would you want to teach that? This might be a guy who's been woodworking for 30 years who just was bored at home and wanted to do some stuff.
Liquor cabinet is probably my number one class I want to take.
There's so much design that you can do with that.
I know
it would be gorgeous. I would love
that.
It
Would be an immersive weekend class.
Absolutely.
Which may be like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yes.
And Friday night design is at a bar.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But that's my number one class is a liquor cabinet, because it's something I know I'm going to use. I have a spot in my dining room that I want one, but I just don't have the time to build the skills to get there.
Right.
Whereas if I have an instructor, I have jigs already built. If I have, better equipment, because the difference between beginner equipment and experienced equipment is simplicity and speed. You could do the same thing with dowels as a domino. Domino's just 5 times easier and 10 times faster. But it is 10 times the cost.
Exactly.
So I would take a liquor building cabinet, or
absolutely
cabinet or something like that. And I think that's going to be more an intermediate to advanced class. Which, if it takes a year for the community to get there. And that demand to get there. That's fine. And I think that's also would be a cool gift to give someone. Like,
absolutely. No, absolutely.
How many guys are, I'm a few years younger than you, but are in our age range, that either like myself don't have kids, or their kids are old enough that they don't need the supervision. But you're kind of like, hey, I just spent the last 10 years of my life kid focused. I don't know what to do. Whereas hey, here's a guys only whiskey cabinet that's a 3-day weekend, and we go out to a bar Saturday night. And it's included. We get a room at the bar. That sounds like an amazing weekend. Because
absolutely. Well, and that's the thing, because like the experience thing, it's always going to be different classes. So yes, we'll have a lot of the beginner bowl turning 101, pen turning. Those will always be on rotation. That's fine. But like the classes themselves are always going to be different. They'll have their seasonal things and all that kind of stuff, but we're always going to come up with some new stuff. And then you start expanding on that into all just the skill building classes and just the design classes and just classes on CNC and classes on laser and all that other kind of stuff. But like the other thing I was saying was that the two reasons I was putting up classes, the first was to prove the demand. The second was, as soon as I posted those, I was immediately getting emails and phone calls from potential clients and customers that was forcing me to define policy right off the bat. Yeah. So a lady emailed me. She's like, I'd love to give my 3 sons the bolt turning class. I was like, okay. She's like, they're 18, 15, and 12. Sure. I'm like, okay. I was like, so now I have to think about it. I'm like, you know what? I was like, 18 and 15 are fine. It's not a kid's class. I was like, 12, I'm gonna say needs a chaperone. And I was like, if you were the instructor and you had 6 people and then the 12-year-old was in the corner with the thing spinning really fast in front of him holding a knife.
Like, no, I would have the 12-year-old
watch him the whole time.
The 12-year-old's going to be on the lathe right next to me.
And that's the thing. I said, when I'm starting out, I was like, I haven't thought of that yet, but now that you're bringing it up, I was like, I'm gonna say 15 is my cutoff. 15 or older, they understand, I think, the inherent risks of what they're doing. Yeah, I was like, younger than that, chaperone, and I'm not going to charge for the chaperone. They can just come and be there. And she's like, that sounds great. Okay, cool.
And that's also a great time. It's like, hey, you have 3 people. The class is for 6.
Right.
We'll say, hey, if you can get the chaperone and maybe someone else wants to join, it's a 5 class.
Fine.
Private class.
Yeah.
I would feel more comfortable because the 12-year-old surrounded by people they know and can help keep an eye on it. Whereas you don't need to have turned 100 bowls to know when a lathe is going too fast and things are getting bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, that's, and I kind of outlined this beginner bowl class, and it's going to be a Saturday, and it's going to be like 4 or 5 hours. And the goal is the instructor is A, you're safe. Sure. Number 1, of course. B, you had a fun time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And C, you walked away with a piece of a bowl that you turned.
Yep.
Something physical that you can either keep or you can give to somebody. And, there's a huge accomplishment in turning because it's one of the odd areas of woodworking where you can go from rough lumber to finished product in like 3-4 hours.
And honestly, that is what I've heard so many older folks say brought them back to woodworking after there's been a big gap. They're like, because now it's just like instant gratification.
Oh yeah.
Like I have a finished product in a couple hours and it's awesome.
Yeah. And we don't have to worry about, everything's going to be wipe on finishes.
Yeah.
And I work with a company that I use their finishes. I love them.
Is it that friction finish that you use? Is it the
Howard's Wax It All?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've been using Howard's for years, and I'm technically a dealer for them, but if the makerspace wants to be a dealer, I could, whatever. Sure. But it's all food safe. We don't have to worry about VOCs. We don't have to worry about anything with linseed oil.
Nice.
And, and it's pretty much, you don't need much. And you went back to that Eric Curtis video. And if anyone doesn't know Eric Curtis, phenomenal guy, even better woodworker. Philly, lives in Philly now. Yeah. But so he's got a video, check it out. And I literally sat there and I looked at my lathe and I was like, how much money it takes. So the thing is, I just bought a new lathe.
Yes. Yeah. I saw you selling your old one.
I'm selling my old ones. And I bought, like, I would say kind of the top of the beginner level.
Okay.
Because I don't want people to feel intimidated when they see me turning things, because there's so many YouTube turners that are turning on $7, $8, $9, $10,000 lathes, just the laser that much. And I'm like, oh yeah, you make it look so easy. Yeah, because your lathe weighs 800 pounds and has, crazy amount of horsepower and torque.
Yep.
Where, hey, this was $1,000. I'm going to show you what I can do.
Absolutely.
And with the turning, you can start from, there'd be a basic bowl class where it's, here you go, here's a blank, I've already mounted it, I'll show you how I mounted it, but you don't have to worry about that.
Right, exactly.
Here's how we're going to turn it. Then we're going to flip it over, hollow out, sand, put sealer on it.
Yep.
Maybe we'll set up a couple of those little laser engravers so you can put your name on the bottom or something like that, put the date on the bottom. Yep. That's it. And then there's going to be, bowl 201, where I'm going to show you, hey, we just got trees dropped off in the lumber yard.
Yep.
Grabbing the chainsaws, I'm showing you how to do this.
Absolutely.
How I go from rough tree down to rough turn bowl, and then we'll let the bowls dry, and I'll see you guys again in 2 months, and we'll finish.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it, because I think that, especially when I'm getting started, some of the skill building classes are going to so there's skill building and there's project classes. Those are the two categories I have, really. And project classes, you walk away with something that you thought you were going to walk away with. Skill building, you're not really walking away with anything. You did some stuff and you're better at it now. So one of the things is that the skill building classes are essentially going to be building stuff for the project classes. So a lot of the stuff for like the rough milling stuff, if you were to literally go outside and we have some logs laying there that a tree company dropped off, we're going to chainsaw these in blanks. We're going to rough turn them to a thing, and then we're going to coat them in anchor seal and put them inside a dark closet inside the makerspace to dry, and come back tomorrow where this same class 2 months ago did this, and you're going to use their blanks that they did. It's the it's the Martha Stewart, put it in the oven, take it out the bottom oven.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's going to be. Or it could be that, hey, 3 months ago I spent a weekend doing all this work.
Yep.
And what you just did, I did 3 months ago.
Yep.
In a weekend, and they're all just sitting in there. Hey, everyone, why don't you go grab one of them?
Yeah, just
pick out which one you want.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a big piece, because it's going to reduce that kind of overwhelming hurdle.
Absolutely. Because that's the thing. It's nothing's worse than like you seeing someone do something and then you try to go home and do it, and you realize that they had something done already. You just don't know what it was. It's like,
and it's like
you did something.
And it's like I wish I could have asked this question when I saw them doing it, but now that I'm doing it, I really wish I could have asked that question.
Yeah.
And with turning, there's a steep learning curve, and there's also a steep fear curve too that you got to get over.
That's where
I'm at. Wood.
That's right.
That's like.
So at Maker Camp, they had a lady who had never turned anything before. She really wanted to, and she was begging Pat Lapp to do it. And so he's like, all right, go over there and pick out one of those blanks. And she's like, all right. She picks out the punkiest walnut, the absolute punkiest thing. Not only was it punky in terms of the grain was going everywhere, but it had knots, it had voids, it was live edge. It was everything that is scary when I was a bystander watching her do this. And so the guy, so Pat Lapp rounded it for her. He's like, all things considered, I really need to do this part.
He's French Canadian, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I know. I was like, that sounds really familiar. And then
he was on that Making Fun show with Jimmy.
Yeah, he's a crazy dude.
He's out of his mind. He's great because he turns in a Viking helmet with horns. But either way, so he rounded it. He's like, I have to at least round it for you because that's just, it's too much right now. She's like, all right, fine. So he did that. And she worked on that thing for a solid 2 hours. And she was the demo. The demo was, this person's never turned a thing in her life, and we're going to turn a giant bowl. And it was not a shallow bowl. It was a, 6-inch deep, like salad bowl out of this. It was a lot of work. And so she just moved on her way. And she eventually, her hands were getting cramping and tired. And so she would take a break and he'd continue. but being just a bystander with something that punky spinning that fast, the sound it was making, like, that's the thing. I would imagine a turning is like a sound and a feel that is just, you have to experience it to figure it out, because she would just keep pushing and pushing, and everyone around her like kind of started holding their breath. They're like, that that chatter's getting really chattery.
No, and you learn to pick up things, but when you first start out, you don't know really what to look for.
What you don't know. Yeah.
But with taking a class and with the experience of the instructors is that they're not going to pick a punky walnut bowl to start out with.
No, it's going to be the straightest of sapele for the bowl turning.
So like the bowl turning, cherry is one of the best.
Yeah.
Super straight, not crazy hard, not a ton of it. It's not the prettiest to look at, cherry. I love the color of cherry. I think it's got a classic tone, a richness to it, but it sands beautifully. It turns great.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about anything toxic coming out, because there's woods that are toxic that people turn and full respirators. I'm just like, nope.
Yep.
But so we're going to be picking the blanks for you. We're going to be mounting the blank. We're going to be making sure that blank is as round as we can get it, so you can start.
Absolutely.
So that if you went to the the retail space, and if we are selling bowl blanks, you can get a bowl blank.
Sure.
Or you can get a rough turn bowl blank that someone at the makerspace rough turn and has been drying.
And that's the thing. That is that's a perfect lead into like, a private instruction session. Be like, hey, I've now turned like 7 or 8 of these bowl blanks that are already prepared. It was great, and they're turning out great. Like, I'd love to just learn how to rough it up, how to round off something that's square. It's like, all right, book a session. And we'll do that. No problem.
Yeah. And then that's the very incremental thing that I never had when I started. I just literally was like, hey, I'm going to chuck a piece of wood in a lathe, and my lathe starts walking across the floor. And I'm literally, at one point, I remember this, I had my left hand on top of the lathe. My right hand was holding the gouge by one arm. And I'm like, I'm shaking, and I'm like, I should stop.
This is not smart.
This is not smart at all. And I've had so many of those. This is not smart. And I still have all my fingers. They're beat the hell already. But and then there's going to be other pieces of where you say, okay, I did the bowl. Now let's add on another piece. Let's do, hey, let's take a lathe sharpening class. That's probably the second biggest intimidation factor for people, is how to sharpen.
Pat had to resharpen that lady's gouge like every 2 minutes. He was sharpening
it. I'm working on some heart pine, shouldn't be a problem, from an Amish barn in the 1800s.
It's the knots, man.
There's still hardened resin in all of this stuff. It looks beautiful. It's got tons of patina, but I'm sharpening and cleaning out.
That's beating the shit out of your tools. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, we'll do a sharpening class.
Yeah.
That may be
that's the thing. Well, it's like, here's our Tormach. Like, just
here's the Tormach. Here's 3 different shapes you can make. Here's the 3 most popular. This is the one I use. This person uses this. And I think that's one other thing that has become an issue in, I think, woodworking as a whole, is this person does it this way, so that's the only right way.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. There's so many different ways to do it, and you may take a class with one instructor that does it one way, and you may take a class with another instructor. They're not wrong. They're just
right.
different ways to do it.
Like, that's the thing. It's in the end, it's dealer's choice. It's what you're comfortable with, and what works. Sharpening is going to be a whole other slew of courses. No, I can't wait. I mean, I think this. I'm so excited about this. It all is looking very, very promising. If everything, and this is, I'm doing all this stuff very conservatively, because I don't like putting cart before the horse and all that kind of stuff in this one instance of my life. This is the only thing I'm not doing that in. But so far it looks like it's good. I think it's still very much in play that we're open by May or June. I would love to see us open by May, because that's when I started scheduling classes. I obviously said it's big old asterisk of, subject to change. So we might just shift everything a month as we go, but it's looking really well. The best way to support this right now is literally just to book yourself a class or buy a gift card for someone or yourself. You go to MontCo-Makers.com. So MontCo-Makers.com. Find us out there. If you're new to this podcast, this Make It While You Fake It podcast has been an entire documentary of me creating this makerspace from just an idea. We started about a year ago. I set a goal for all of 2024 was going to be planning, getting everything ready, getting business plan, financials, meeting all the people I needed to meet. And so I'm at the point now where we're talking financials with a bank, with the SBA. Could have money by the end of March, could have a building month after that. If we get open, I would love to see people come in and start taking classes. Mike Holmstrom is going to be teaching many of the turning classes.
And I think I'm going to be teaching a ton of the turning classes, and then I'm going to be in a whole bunch of other classes. Whereas, it would be cool to, hey, I took that person's class, but now they're standing next to me learning. Like that seems cool.
Awesome.
And
it's gonna be great.
And as someone who's been watching this whole process, and I am always super excited. I've been bugging Dan, like, any updates? What's going on? Like, any updates? So I'm excited for this to happen. I can't wait to start teaching classes and taking classes and seeing everything come to shape. Like Dan said, there's gonna be plenty of bowl turning classes. And another thing is that if you start seeing things that you want to learn how to make, or you see, save them, pin them.
Yes, absolutely. Send them along. Yeah.
Send them. There's a contact form on MontCo Makers. Hey, I saw this guy make a birdhouse, turned a birdhouse and stuff like that in the shape of an acorn. That looks really cool. Send it along.
Yep.
It's Dan and also, myself and the other kind of makers in the area to help get an instructor if there's enough demand for that class. So
absolutely. Because this is a fully member driven shop. So if the members want something and they all kind of vote on it, and I hear the same thing from a lot of different members, I'm going to make it happen, because I want this to be a place that so my pie in the sky dream is that you come to the makerspace when you don't even have something to make, because you just love being there. And that might be a little bit too, whatever, rose-colored glasses, but people go into their shops when they have nothing to do. Like, they just go because that's their happy place. I want it to be people's happy place. And I also want to get some coffee, sit down, meet the other makers, talk about what people are working on. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I also want people to say, hey, I don't even know what I want to make. I just want to make something. I just want to use my hands. I just want to do something.
Yep.
And then, okay, here's the whole list of classes we have. And it doesn't even need to be a turning class. You could take a charcuterie board class and stuff like that. And, just make something in this era of one click. I get it tomorrow, mass produced goods.
Amazon Wayfair bullshit that people want all the time.
Be the handmade item. Make a handmade item, because I guarantee you, from someone that's done it so many times, I still get the rush. I still get the satisfaction of making something.
Absolutely.
So, we hope to see everyone at MontCo Makers.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome.
And if anyone wants to check out my stuff, it's Bodie Designs Woodworking on Instagram, BODIEDESIGNS. I'm way better at turning than spelling.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yes, Facebook. It's Bodie Designs Woodworking, the full word, and then the app that may be going away next week. It's Bodie Designs Woodworking. Yeah, and again, if you sign up for any of the bolt turning classes, hopefully I'll be teaching it, and I hope to see you at the classes.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been
awesome. All right, take care.
Thanks,
See you
everyone.
guys.